I was 76 years old when my daughter looked me in my eyes and said, "That's not my problem," after learning about my cancer diagnosis. What she didn't know was the leather-bound journal I'd been keeping since the day I first noticed something was wrong. Not with my health, but with her heart. Those 5 words, "That's not my problem," echoed through the kitchen we once baked cookies in together, the same kitchen where I'd taught her to make my mother's apple pie, where I'd bandaged her scraped knees, where I'd celebrated her law school acceptance with tears of pride. 5 words that erased 38 years of sacrifice in an instant. The melanoma diagnosis terrified me, but her dismissal, that broke something deep inside me that I thought could never be repaired. Before I reveal how I turned decades of dismissal into the most important lesson my children ever learned, subscribe to her Silver Truth for daily stories where elderly wisdom proves more powerful than anyone expected. Our generation was taught to endure, to sacrifice, to put family above everything, even our own survival. We've spent our lives building safety nets for our children, never imagining we'd be the ones left falling without one. But there comes a point where patience transforms into something else entirely, something they never saw coming. The cancer in my body was dangerous, but the revelation it triggered, that saved my life in ways no doctor could have predicted. Because what my daughter didn't understand when she casually dismissed my suffering was that she had just awakened something that had been dormant inside me for decades. A fierce determination to reclaim what was rightfully mine. Let me take you back to where it all began, before my 3 successful children forgot who made their success possible, before my daughter's beautiful lakeside Chicago home became more important than my survival, before I discovered that 38 years of sacrifice could be dismissed with 5 cruel words that changed everything. Picture a young widow in Cleveland, 1980. 3 small children sleeping as their mother's fingers click-clack on a typewriter late into the night. The smell of discount detergent on hand-me-down clothes. The burning determination in tired eyes. The sound of breaking glass as I smashed my piggy bank to pay for Jennifer's asthma medication. The weight of mortgage papers in my trembling hands. The metallic taste of fear each month as bills arrived. That woman never imagined her children's comfortable future would come at the cost of her dignity, or that one day she would finally reclaim it all. That terrified widow you just met became a fortress for her children. The morning after smashing my childhood piggy bank for Jennifer's medication, I enrolled in a medical transcription course. Just in case, I told myself, though we both knew it was because the school district's health insurance wasn't enough. Those 7 minutes of tears I allowed myself in the bathroom the night Richard died became my only indulgence. Every other moment belonged to my children and their future. Every morning began at 5:30 a.m. I'd prepare lunches while reviewing spelling words. Evenings meant grading papers while helping with homework. Weekends were filled with baseball games, dance recitals, and the sewing machine whirring as I altered second-hand clothes to look store-bought. I withdrew exactly $47 from my retirement fund each month to ensure Jennifer could take piano lessons. My mother always said, "Track every penny and you'll never be surprised by where they went," I explained to my neighbour Dorothy as we compared grocery receipts for the best deals. Depression-era habits die hard. I kept meticulous records of every expense in leather-bound ledgers, a habit that seemed old-fashioned even then. Each penny accounted for, each sacrifice documented in neat, precise handwriting. The children would roll their eyes when they saw me updating the ledgers at the kitchen table. "Oh, Mum, nobody does that anymore," Jennifer would say. "That's what banks are for." But those ledgers brought me comfort, a sense of control in a life where I had so little. When Michael needed braces, I sold my mother's silver serving set, the only heirloom I had. The orthodontist wanted $2,800 up front, and my credit was stretched to its limit. "Are you sure, Mum?" Michael asked, seeing me wrap each piece in newspaper. my hands lingering on the gravy boat my mother had used every Thanksgiving. "It's just silver," I told him. "Your smile is worth more." "Why can't we have Nintendo like everyone else?" Emma once demanded, stomping her foot after being teased at school. "Because everyone else's mother isn't saving for 3 college educations," I replied, adding another $20 to my locked metal cash box labelled Education. That night, I found Emma crying in her room. "I'm sorry, Mum," she whispered as I sat on her bed. "I know you're trying. Someday," I promised her, "all of this will be worth it. You'll have opportunities I never had." By 1998, all 3 of my children had graduated from college, the first generation in our family to do so. I had somehow managed to help fund their education without drowning in debt, though my own retirement account remained perilously thin. The day Jennifer graduated from law school, I watched her walk across the stage with tears streaming down my face. All those late nights, all those second jobs, all those sacrifices had led to this moment. She was radiant in her cap and gown, her future bright with possibilities I had never dared dream of for myself. "Mom, you're the reason we're all successful," Jennifer said at her graduation dinner. "I'll always take care of you the way you took care of us." She meant it then. I believe that. My teaching career continued until 2010, when arthritis in my hands made grading papers increasingly difficult. The pain would wake me at night, my fingers swollen and stiff. By morning, I could barely hold a pen. I'd put aside exactly $378,152 for retirement. Not enough for luxury, but sufficient for modest comfort if I was careful. Each statement from my pension fund was carefully filed away, each budget recalculated, to ensure I wouldn't become a burden. "You should move closer to me in Chicago," Jennifer suggested as her own career flourished at a prestigious law firm. "When I have children, I'll need your help, and we can look after each other." The idea of being close to future grandchildren was irresistible. And so I did, selling my Cleveland home, the home where I'd raised them alone, where every corner held memories of our life together, and purchasing a small townhouse just 3 miles from Jennifer's impressive lakeside condo. The $42,000 difference in home prices went directly into my retirement fund. A safety net, I told myself. Just in case. Within 2 years, Jennifer had twins, Alexander and Sophia. They were beautiful, perfect children with her sharp intelligence and Richard's gentle eyes. "Mum, could you take the kids Tuesday and Thursday? The nanny's days off," she asked when they were just 6 months old. Her voice was casual, as if she were asking me to pick up milk on my way over. This soon became Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. 11 hours a day of bottles and diapers and rocking chairs. I loved those babies fiercely, but my arthritic hands struggled with snaps and buttons. By evening, the pain would be so intense, I could barely prepare my own dinner. "Grandma, why does your hand shake when you colour?" little Alexander asked as I tried to hide the tremor that came with fatigue and pain. "That's just my body reminding me I've loved a lot of people for a very long time," I answered, not wanting to worry him about the growing stiffness that made each day more difficult. I never complained to Jennifer. Her career was demanding, and I was proud of her success. But small things began to change. Invitations to family dinners became less frequent. Phone calls went unanswered. My 70th birthday passed without celebration. Jennifer cancelled our dinner plans when a work emergency arose. The beautifully wrapped gift I'd prepared for myself to be from the twins remained hidden in my closet. "Maybe next weekend," became her standard response to my invitations. "Things are just so crazy right now." What I didn't realise then was that Jennifer had already started checking my medication bottles, examining my mail when I wasn't looking, and asking subtle questions about my finances. Once I returned from the bathroom to find her scrolling through my phone. Another time I discovered my bank statement refolded differently than I had left it. "Just tidying up, Mum," she said when I mentioned it. "You know how I am about clutter." The groundwork for what was coming had already been laid, right under my trusting eyes. Like termites in the foundation of a house that still looks perfect from the outside, the damage was already underway. What happened next revealed that my daughter's concern was never for my well-being, but for what my illness would cost her, both financially and in terms of convenience. The mask of the grateful daughter slipped, revealing something I hadn't allowed myself to see, someone who viewed my existence solely through the lens of what I could provide. The diagnosis came 3 days before Christmas 2018. Melanoma. Stage 2. Treatable, but serious. I discovered it by accident, a dark mole on my back that had changed shape over the months. I'd asked my doctor about it during a routine appointment for my arthritis. His expression shifted as he examined it, and I knew before he spoke that something was wrong. "We need to biopsy this immediately," he said, his voice gentle but urgent. The results came in a sterile envelope. I sat alone in my townhouse, the Christmas tree lights blinking in the corner, as I read the word malignant, and felt my world shift on its axis. "Jennifer, I need to talk to you about something important," I said that evening as I watched the twins open the Christmas gifts I'd carefully selected and wrapped, despite the pain in my hands. "Can it wait, Mum? I'm trying to film this for Instagram," she replied, never looking away from her phone as she captured Sophia unwrapping the doll I'd saved for 3 months to afford. It was after the children were asleep that I finally told her. "Cancer? Are you sure?" she asked, the first flicker of concern crossing her face. I felt momentary relief. Until she continued. "What does this mean for the twins? Your schedule with them?" I remember the chill that ran through me. Her first thought wasn't about my health or survival. It was about her childcare arrangements. "The doctor says with surgery and treatment the prognosis is good, but I'll need help for a few weeks after the surgery. And the co-pays?" I hesitated, knowing my fixed income left little room for medical emergencies. "You have Medicare, right?" Jennifer replied, already scrolling through emails on her phone. "And didn't you say you had some savings for emergencies?" At family dinner the following week, Jennifer announced my diagnosis as if discussing a minor inconvenience. "Mum's got some skin cancer thing, nothing major." She waved her hand dismissively, passing the mashed potatoes. "She might need to cut back on watching the twins for a bit." Michael barely looked up from his phone. "That sucks. Can't you just, have it removed?" Emma at least reached across the table to squeeze my hand, but the conversation quickly turned to their upcoming ski trip, a vacation to which I hadn't been invited. "You wouldn't enjoy it anyway, Mum," Jennifer said when she caught me looking at the brochure. "The altitude wouldn't be good for you." I sat silently at the table, invisible in plain sight, as they discussed which ski runs they would tackle, and which restaurants had the best après-ski cocktails. The cancer growing in my body suddenly seemed less threatening than the coldness growing in my children's hearts. The surgery was scheduled for January 15th. I asked Jennifer 3 times if she could drive me. "Mum, I have a massive case going to trial. Can't you ask Dorothy? Or take an Uber?" she suggested, glancing at her watch as if counting the minutes until she could leave my house. I had never used Uber. The thought of navigating an app and getting into a stranger's car after surgery terrified me. But I didn't say that. Instead, I called Dorothy, my only real friend in Chicago. "Of course I'll take you," Dorothy said immediately. "What time should I pick you up?" The surgeon was confident they had caught the melanoma before it spread, but recommended follow-up radiation treatments to be certain. When I mentioned the co-pays and out-of-pocket expenses at our next family dinner, Jennifer's eyes narrowed. "Didn't you say you had emergency savings? What about your teacher's pension?" she asked, cutting her steak into precise squares. "Michael and Emma and I all have our own expenses. The twins' private preschool is almost $40 to $100 a month." I had always taught my children that family helps family. Apparently that lesson only worked in one direction. "I could help," Emma offered quietly. "I don't have much, but—" "Don't be ridiculous," Jennifer interrupted. "Mum has resources. She just needs to manage them better." One evening, while dropping off some soup, Jennifer casually mentioned, "Have you thought about getting a reverse mortgage on your townhouse? That could cover your medical bills without you having to touch your savings." What she didn't mention was that a reverse mortgage would effectively eliminate her inheritance. My townhouse, purchased with the proceeds from my Cleveland family home, where I had raised them alone. "I'd like to leave my home to my children," I said. "We'd rather have you take care of yourself now," Jennifer replied smoothly. "I'll bring some brochures next time." The brochures arrived the next day via courier. Inside the envelope was a business card for a mortgage broker, Jennifer's husband's college roommate. Later that week, I noticed bank statements missing from my desk drawer. When I mentioned it, Jennifer laughed. "Mum, you're getting forgetful. Remember how you misplaced your reading glasses and found them in the refrigerator?" I hadn't misplaced anything. Not my glasses, not my bank statements. But I began to doubt myself. Was my memory failing? Was I becoming confused, as they so often suggested? Then I discovered a withdrawal slip from my savings account. $2,000 transferred to a checking account I didn't recognize. The signature looked like mine, but I had no memory of making the transaction. When I called the bank, they confirmed the withdrawal had been made in person with proper identification. "Your daughter was with you," the teller added helpfully. "The one who's a lawyer." As the radiation treatments began, my role as grandmother began to shift. Jennifer hired a college student to watch the twins. "The kids need someone energetic," she explained when I arrived to find a young woman playing with Alexander and Sophia. "Someone who can keep up with them." The twins ran to hug me, but Jennifer quickly intervened. "Careful with Grandma," she warned them. "She's not feeling well." "I'm perfectly capable of hugging my grandchildren," I protested. "I'm just being cautious," Jennifer replied. "You're more fragile now." I wasn't fragile. I was being treated for cancer, but I wasn't made of glass. Yet gradually the twins began treating me differently, asking if I was sick today when I arrived, keeping their distance as if illness might be contagious. When I arrived for Sunday dinner the following month, there was no place set for me at the table. "Oh, I didn't know you were coming," Jennifer said, though we'd had the same arrangement for years. She hurriedly set an extra place, at the far end of the table, away from the twins, as if I might contaminate them. Throughout dinner, I noticed how the conversation flowed around me, not including me. When I tried to share a story about my teaching days, Michael interrupted with a work anecdote. When I offered to help with dessert, Jennifer patted my hand. "Just rest, Mum. We've got this." I wasn't tired. I wasn't confused. I wasn't incapable. But they had already decided who I was now. A burden. A problem to be managed. At Alexander's 5th birthday party, the family photos displayed included none with me. When I mentioned it, Michael smirked. "Mum, you're being paranoid. Why would Jennifer deliberately leave you out?" But I saw the look they exchanged, the slight roll of Jennifer's eyes, the dismissive shrug from Michael. "Maybe it's the medication affecting your thinking," Jennifer suggested. "The oncologist did mention cognitive side effects, right?" He hadn't. In fact, at my last appointment, he'd commented on how clear and organized my questions were, how I was managing my treatment with remarkable resilience. But in my children's eyes, I was already diminished, a footnote in their family story rather than its author. Many of us have heard these dismissive words when trying to express concerns. "You're confused. You're too sensitive. You're imagining things." But what they fail to understand about our generation is that we've weathered far worse than their dismissals. We've survived wars, recessions, and personal tragedies they cannot imagine. We didn't survive all that by being fragile or confused. That's exactly why I decided to start documenting everything they said and did, writing it all down in my leather journal the moment I returned home. Our generation knows the value of documentation, of evidence, of protecting oneself in a world that too easily dismisses the elderly. We learned long ago that sometimes silence and observation are the most powerful tools we possess. What my children didn't know was that I'd already spoken to Dorothy's son, a retired detective who recognized the warning signs of elder exploitation better than most. "Keep records," he advised me over coffee while Dorothy was at her book club. Document every conversation. Note times, dates, who was present. Take photos if necessary. And trust your instincts. They've kept you alive this long for a reason. If you've ever had your concerns dismissed because of your age, tap the like button now. It's our way of standing together against those who underestimate us. Have you noticed how quickly they label us confused when we question them? How easily they dismiss our concerns as paranoia? How conveniently they attribute our observations to medication side effects? But we know better, don't we? We know exactly what we see and hear. And more importantly, we know how to wait, how to observe, how to plan. April brought a devastating discovery. My cancer had progressed to stage 3, despite treatment. The oncologist's face showed concern as he reviewed my scans. The cancer has spread to nearby lymph nodes, he explained gently. We need to be more aggressive now. I sat perfectly still in the exam room, absorbing the news while staring at the faded motivational poster on the wall. A soaring eagle with the word courage beneath it. My body felt suddenly foreign to me. Not just housing cancer, but betraying me by allowing it to spread. The treatment plan will cost approximately $67,000, with your Medicare covering about 80%, the financial counselor explained later. Her voice was kind but matter-of-fact as she slid the paperwork across her desk. That leaves roughly $1,400 in out-of-pocket expenses. The number seemed to float above the paperwork. $13,400, almost exactly what I'd spent helping Michael with his first house down payment. Almost precisely what I'd contributed to Emma's wedding. When I called Jennifer to explain the situation, she was in her car, speakerphone echoing. I could hear traffic in the background, the faint sound of NPR playing beneath her voice. Stage 3. Are you sure? She asked, her voice more annoyed than concerned. What does this mean for the summer? We've got the twins enrolled in activities and we were counting on you to transport them. Jennifer, I'm talking about cancer that's spreading through my body, I said, my voice barely steady. I need help with the treatment costs. Medicare won't cover everything. Mom, I'm dropping $4,200 a month on private preschool for the twins. We just don't have extra money right now, she said. I heard her turn her signal on, the ticking sound punctuating her dismissal. Can't you take out a loan or something? Or use your home equity? That's when she said the words that changed everything. That's not my problem. 5 words. Simple, declarative, final. The phone slipped from my hand, clattering to the kitchen floor. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My own daughter. The daughter whose asthma treatments I'd paid for by working 2 jobs, whose law school I'd helped fund by delaying my retirement, whose children I'd raised for free while she built her career. I could hear her voice, tiny and distant from the fallen phone. Mom? Hello? I've got another call coming in. I made no move to retrieve it. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table, shoulders curved forward with the weight of betrayal, feeling every one of my 76 years pressing down on me like stones. As I stared blankly across the room, my eyes fell on the collection of leather-bound journals on my bookshelf. For 40 years, I'd kept meticulous records of household expenses, a habit from my Depression-era parents. Know where every penny goes, my mother had insisted, and you'll never be caught by surprise. With trembling hands, I pulled them down and began to flip through them. Page after page of financial sacrifices, the exact amounts, the specific dates, the reasons why. $40,700, October 1999. Jennifer's first semester law books and apartment security deposit $8,200. May 2001. Jennifer's graduation trip to Europe $2,500. September 2003. Down payment help for Michael's first house $1,800. June 2007. Emma's wedding $2,300. December 2016. Emergency plumbing repair at Jennifer's house. I'd forgotten so many of these entries, or rather, I'd never tallied them, never calculated what they represented in aggregate. I'd given what was needed when it was needed, without expectation of repayment. Only the unspoken assumption that when I needed help, they would respond in kind. As I read, something shifted inside me. A lifetime of acquiescence began to crack. My shoulders straightened, my breathing steadied. The pain of betrayal didn't diminish, but something stronger grew alongside it. determination. That evening, I opened a new journal. On the first page, I wrote, April 17th, 2019. Jennifer says my cancer is not her problem. Today, I begin solving it myself. So many of us have felt that moment when everything suddenly becomes clear. When the fog of denial lifts and we see with perfect clarity what has been happening around us. That moment when a lifetime of choosing peace over conflict, of swallowing hurt rather than causing discord, suddenly seems like a terrible miscalculation. They mistake our patience for weakness, our silence for acceptance. They forget that we built careers, raised families, and navigated complex social systems long before they were born. Before they had even taken their first breath, we had already solved more problems than they could imagine. I realized my years of careful record-keeping, the very habit they had mocked as outdated and unnecessary, were about to become my greatest weapon. Where they saw a confused old woman, I knew there was a meticulous documentarian who had recorded every transaction, every contribution, every sacrifice. The habits they dismissed as quaint were about to become my shield and my sword. The key piece of evidence I needed most was my original will, the one Jennifer had helped me update last year, when my hands were too painful to write clearly. I remembered signing something, but the details were hazy. Jennifer had explained it as just routine updates, but now I wondered. The copy was locked in her home office desk, and I needed to retrieve it without raising suspicions. That night, I made 3 phone calls. First to Dorothy, my only true friend in Chicago. I need a ride to an attorney's office next week, I told her, my voice calm despite the turmoil inside, and your absolute discretion. Margaret, what's happening? She asked, concern evident. I'm taking back control, I replied simply. Second, to my bank, requesting complete records of all transactions for the past 5 years. The representative asked if I wanted them mailed to my home address. No, I said firmly. I'll pick them up in person, with identification. Third, to the senior centre, asking about their legal aid resources for the elderly. The woman who answered mentioned a specialist in elder law. Bradley Cohen, she said. He's helped several of our members with financial exploitation cases. I wrote the name down carefully. Exploitation. The word felt both shocking and precisely accurate. I began gathering evidence systematically, approaching the task with the same organised methodology I'd used when preparing lesson plans for 3 different grade levels simultaneously. This was merely another type of education, a curriculum in self-protection. Every dismissive text message was screenshot and saved to a folder labelled Documentation. Every cancelled appointment was noted with date, time, and stated reason. Every time they excluded me from family functions was recorded with witnesses and specific details. I purchased a small digital recorder that resembled a pen, the kind Dorothy's son had recommended. It fit perfectly in my purse pocket. I recorded conversations casually, making sure to keep my responses gentle and accommodating while they revealed their true attitudes. Mum's getting worse, I overheard Michael tell Jennifer when they thought I was napping. Do you think we should look into assisted living? Her house would sell for a fortune in this market. I documented every dollar I'd given them since they'd become adults. The total, $232, shocked even me. Nearly $250,000 I could have used for my retirement, for my medical care, for my security. Instead, it had funded their comfortable lives while they now refused to help with my cancer treatment. One afternoon, while watching the twins, I waited until they were absorbed in a movie before slipping into Jennifer's home office. With trembling hands but determined resolve, I carefully photographed the documents in her desk drawer, including the will I'd supposedly signed. The signature looked like mine, but I had no memory of signing on that specific date. And certain provisions about incapacity and who would determine it seemed suspiciously convenient for Jennifer. When Jennifer asked if I could still watch the twins during my treatment, I smiled and said, "Of course, dear, family comes first." All while my recorder captured every word. She never noticed the change in me, The straighter posture, the more deliberate speech, the watchful eyes. She saw only what she expected to see: a compliant mother, a convenient caregiver, a problem to be managed. What I did next would change our family forever and teach my children the lesson I should have taught them decades ago: that kindness is not weakness, that patience is not surrender, and that the mother who had sacrificed everything for them still had the courage to reclaim her dignity. By August, I had assembled everything I needed: financial records showing I'd given my 3 children a combined £247,132 since they became adults. Medical records documenting my diagnosis and treatment recommendations. Recordings of Jennifer dismissing my cancer as not her problem. Evidence of the manipulated will. Bank statements showing unauthorized withdrawals from my accounts. A comprehensive record of the 11,180 hours of free childcare I'd provided for the twins. Photos of family events from which I'd been excluded. Documentation of the exact value of my home in Cleveland that I'd sold to move closer to Jennifer. Each document was meticulously organized in my leather-bound portfolio, the same portfolio Richard had given me when I received my master's degree in education. I had approached this task the way I'd prepared lesson plans, with thoroughness, clarity, and attention to detail. I made an appointment with Bradley Cohen, an elder law attorney recommended by the Senior Centre. His office walls were lined with certificates and awards for advocacy in elder justice cases. As I laid out my evidence piece by methodical piece, his expression shifted from professional interest to undisguised concern. "Mrs. Wilson, this is textbook elder exploitation," he said, examining the withdrawals from my account that matched neither my handwriting nor my recollection. "The unauthorized transactions alone would constitute financial abuse. And this clause about incapacity in the will your daughter had you sign? That would never stand up in court." For the first time in months, I felt a sense of control returning. My hands no longer trembled as I gathered the documents. "I'd like to execute a new will," I told him, "and I have some other ideas I'd like to discuss." His smile was understanding. "I think it's time you reclaimed what's rightfully yours. There comes a moment when we must decide between keeping peace and demanding respect. Our generation was taught to sacrifice, to put family harmony above personal dignity. We were raised to be the peacemakers, the ones who smoothed troubled waters even when we were drowning in them ourselves. But our generation also knows the value of timing, of waiting for the perfect moment. We understand that confrontation without preparation is just emotion, but confrontation with evidence is justice. We've survived enough to know when silence serves us and when it merely enables those who would take advantage. That's why I chose their Labor Day family barbecue, the event to which I'd been specifically told not to bring up my health issues, as the moment to reveal everything. "We're having Jennifer's work colleagues over," Emma had explained. "Let's keep things light and festive." Light and festive, as if my cancer was a conversational inconvenience rather than a life-threatening condition. As if my financial exploitation was a minor family squabble rather than a betrayal of everything I'd taught them. Labor Day arrived with perfect weather. Jennifer's backyard was filled with her colleagues and friends. The twins ran through sprinklers, while Michael manned the grill, spatula in one hand, craft beer in the other. Emma arranged catered food on the table, carefully adjusting the artisanal cheese board she'd been posting about on Instagram all week. I arrived carrying a simple leather portfolio, dressed not in the casual clothes Jennifer had suggested, but in the navy blue suit I'd worn to my retirement party. My hair was freshly styled, my posture straight, despite the effort it cost me. "Mum, you're early," Jennifer said, her smile stiffening as she took in my formal appearance. "We're not really set up yet." "That's fine, dear. I won't stay long. I just have some family business to discuss with you, Michael and Emma." Her eyes darted nervously to her colleagues, already arriving with wine bottles and hostess gifts. "Can't it wait? We have guests coming." "No," I said. surprised by the firmness in my voice. It can't. Jennifer's smile remained fixed, but her eyes hardened. She led me into her home office, summoning Michael and Emma with a sharp gesture. "This better be quick, Mum," Michael said, checking his watch. "The burgers will burn." In Jennifer's home office, I opened my portfolio and removed 3 identical folders, each labelled with one of their names. "What's this?" Michael asked, already looking bored. "This is the documented history of your exploitation," I replied calmly. "Every withdrawal, every dismissal, every lie." Their faces registered confusion, then alarm as they flipped through the meticulously organised evidence. "Mum, what are you talking about?" Emma asked, her voice uncertain. I placed my phone on the desk and played the recording of Jennifer saying, "That's not my problem," when I told her about my cancer. "You recorded me," she gasped, colour draining from her face. "I recorded everything," I replied. "Every conversation where you suggested I get a reverse mortgage to pay for my medical care. Every time Emma promised to visit but never showed up. Every instance where Michael asked for money while claiming he was just checking in. What they didn't know was that I had one final piece of evidence, the original letter from my oncologist stating that with proper treatment, my cancer had an 87% survival rate. Treatment they had made nearly impossible for me to obtain. In their eagerness to protect their inheritance, they had nearly guaranteed its early arrival. For every time you excluded me from family photos, I've removed your photos from my home," I began. "For every time you question my memory or sanity, I've documented your deception with clarity no one can question. Where they'd once mocked my outdated record-keeping, my meticulous documentation now served as irrefutable evidence. Where they'd dismissed my medical concerns, my comprehensive health records validated my claims." "That personal health information is private," Jennifer argued weakly. "So is my bank account," I replied. "Yet somehow you accessed it without my knowledge." "I've created a new will and transferred my assets into an irrevocable trust," I explained. "My townhouse has been sold, with the proceeds going to the Wilson Family Educational Trust, a scholarship fund for students pursuing careers in elder care law and oncology." Jennifer's face paled. "You can't do that. That's our inheritance." "The inheritance you tried to secure by suggesting a reverse mortgage that would benefit only you?" I asked. "The same inheritance you were unwilling to help preserve by contributing to my medical care." "But where will you live?" Emma asked, genuine concern finally breaking through her complicity. "I've purchased a comfortable apartment in Lakeview Senior Living where I'll have both independence and community. The trust will pay for my medical care, ensuring I receive the treatment I need without burdening those who find my cancer not their problem." "I've also filed a formal complaint of elder exploitation," I continued. "Mr. Cohen has prepared all the necessary documentation. Whether we proceed with legal action is entirely up to you." For the first time in years, they were silent. No dismissals, no gaslighting, no patronising explanations. "You have 2 options," I said, placing a final document on the desk. "You can sign this acknowledgement of your behaviour and commit to family counselling, or you can explain your actions to a judge." "What would you have done if someone tried to erase your contributions? Our community values your wisdom in the comments below." Have you ever reached that breaking point where peace at any price became too costly? Where your dignity demanded to be recognised? So many of us were raised to avoid conflict, to be the peacemakers, to put family harmony above our own needs. But there comes a moment when standing up for yourself becomes an act of self-preservation, when drawing boundaries isn't selfish, it's survival. The movers finished loading the last of my possessions into the truck. I stood in the empty townhouse, running my hand along the kitchen counter where I'd prepared countless meals for grandchildren who now looked at me with confusion when their parents' attitudes changed. "Are you sure about this, Mrs. Wilson?" the head mover asked, clipboard in hand. "More certain than I've been about anything in decades," I replied. My new apartment at Lakeview Senior Living was small but perfect for my needs. A single bedroom, an efficient kitchen, and a living room with windows that flooded the space with morning light. With the proceeds from my townhouse safely in the educational trust and a portion set aside for my medical care, I had reclaimed not just my assets, but my independence. Dorothy was waiting for me, her car packed with houseplants she'd been keeping safe during the move. Her friendship, genuine and without expectation, highlighted everything my family relationships had lacked. "The community centre called," she said with a smile as we carried pots of African violets inside. "They're excited about your teaching that memoir writing class." My new living room had windows overlooking a garden where residents gathered on benches to read or chat. I arranged my books and journals on shelves, no longer hidden in drawers, but displayed proudly as testimony to a life fully documented and, finally, fully lived on my own terms. The cancer treatments I could now afford were working. My oncologist noted improved results once the stress of family betrayal had been removed from my life. "Your numbers are better," he said during my follow-up appointment. "Whatever you're doing, keep it up." What I was doing was living authentically for the first time in decades. I joined a cancer support group where I met other women my age navigating illness without family support. Together we formed a new kind of family, one built on mutual respect rather than obligation. I still had my memories, the good ones I chose to keep and the difficult ones I chose to learn from. But now I also had something I'd lost somewhere during those 38 years of self-sacrifice: myself. 3 weeks after my move, a letter arrived from Emma. "Mum, I've been thinking about what you said at the barbecue, about how we all took without giving back. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to understand. Could we have coffee sometime?" I considered ignoring it, but the teacher in me recognized a learning opportunity. "Here's what I learned, and what I want every woman of our generation to hear. There is a profound difference between loving your family and allowing them to exploit your love. Support is reciprocal. Sacrifice should not be. Document everything. Trust your instincts, and remember that you do not owe your financial security to children who won't help secure your medical care. We spent decades putting everyone else first. There comes a time when your needs, your health, your dignity must take priority. This isn't selfishness, it's survival." The most powerful lesson I taught my children wasn't during those 38 years of giving. It was in the moment I finally stopped. These stories of vindication happen every day in the lives of women just like you. If this story resonated with you, please hit like and share it with another woman who might need to be reminded of her worth today. Subscribe for more powerful stories of women reclaiming their dignity after decades of sacrifice. What would you have done in Margaret's situation? Would you have confronted your family or chosen a different path? Share your wisdom in the comments below. Our generation's wisdom deserves to be honoured, not exploited. These stories matter because you matter. Be sure to check out the next video on screen for another journey of transformation. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.